I check all the boxes, single parent home, all of that stuff. So just a lot of the challenges that some of our students face, I had to face growing up as well.
Welcome to the Revolution of One podcast, where the revolution will not only be televised, but also individualized.
Today's guest is Rector from Youth Entrepreneurs. Anna started off as an art student and a curator and found her way to entrepreneurship education. Today, we're going to talk about her story and the odds that she's overcome, what it's like to work with young people who are in need of support, and how to follow your dreams when you don't feel like you have what it takes. Anna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So you know what I really wanted the intro to be? I wanted to look at the camera and I wanted to say, today's guest has stood face to face with a wild baboon.
Yes, that is accurate.
Is that true?
That is very true.
Tell me about that.
So probably 8 or 9 years ago, I had an opportunity to go to South Africa, and I was going to the Cape of Good Hope. And if you've ever been there or you know that area, it's known for wild baboons. And there at the Cape, they have plenty of signs plastered around that says wild baboons beware, kind of like don't have your picnics, don't bring out your snacks or whatever, because they are here. Well, I guess I didn't listen. And I had a very tasty bag of, I think they're called knickknacks. It's a South African potato chip. And, I'm going to get my Cape of Good Hope photo behind the kind of legendary sign, you're at the most southwestern tip of the continent or whatever. And then I walk over and they're like right behind me is one of the baboons. And I feel like it's just eyeing my snacks. And I was like, oh my God, the one time I don't follow directions, here I am face to face. Luckily, it ended well. I survived to tell the story, obviously. But yeah, so it was just a very odd encounter that I had while in South Africa studying. So yeah.
Biggest takeaway from South Africa?
Biggest takeaway, oh gosh. Beautiful, beautiful country. Probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. But I had an opportunity to really learn about the impact of apartheid, and I visited Nelson Mandela's cell. So I think the biggest takeaway for me was just, gosh, we should just be so grateful and so thankful for the opportunities that we have. Just learning about the history that those people, and very similar to what's our history here in the United States is in terms of people of color, but it just gave me a level of gratefulness and thankfulness to kind of have the opportunities that I've had in my life. So great experience.
Opportunity. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
I know that the work you do at YE is all about helping create opportunities
it is, very much
for aspiring young entrepreneurs.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so YE, our whole vision and mission is really to help young people uncover and discover their innate abilities and skills. And once they do that, then how do they leverage them to not only improve their lives, but more importantly, the lives of others. And that's really at the core of the work that we're trying to do. Is help create this next generation of productive citizens that are contributing and creating real value in society for themselves, but for their communities as well. So
now for my viewers, YE is Youth Entrepreneurs.
Yes, YE stands for Youth Entrepreneurs. And we were founded in 1991 in Wichita in one classroom. We've come a long way since then. We're now this fall entering 26 states. So quite a tremendous amount of growth over the years.
That's amazing. So do you focus exclusively on people that want to become entrepreneurs?
Not necessarily. So that's the beauty about our definition of entrepreneurship, and we call it principled entrepreneurship. So it's really more about a mindset, not necessarily that traditional definition of entrepreneur. I think a lot of people, when they hear that word, they think, owning my own or starting my own or a brick and mortar business. But for us, it's much bigger than that. It's really about that entrepreneurial thinking and that entrepreneurial mindset. And we believe, sometimes that manifests in our students becoming entrepreneurs in the traditional sense. About 30% of our students go on to start their own businesses, actually employ others. But the other chunk of those students are or have learned the skills to be entrepreneurial in whatever they pursue. So in college, working in corporations or businesses, it's really about how do you employ that kind of thinking to create value.
I'm so glad you said that about the mindset, because this is the age where being an entrepreneur is so glamorized, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, be a startup founder or die,
Yeah.
right? or nothing at all,
Right.
rather.
If you're not doing one of those,
and there are so many aspects of that entrepreneurial mindset that are going to be necessary for people regardless of their career.
Absolutely.
I heard Seth Godin say once that there's an increasingly, that the space is getting smaller for people that don't look at their work as a form of entrepreneurship. So there's no more room to say, oh, I just want to get a job and I just want to be told what to do. No matter what you do, you have to be able to kind of
innovate.
Create your own roadmap within that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a big piece of it as well, is cultivating those skills that allow you to innovate in a workplace or for yourself or wherever your path takes you. But those are the critical skills in life, period, no matter where life takes you. How do I learn how to fail and fail fast? How do I learn how to be innovative and think critically, to problem solve? Those are key skills that translate across any type of industry, any type of pursuit that you may have. So that's what we're really trying to instill in students. And they can take that wherever, their path leads them.
Now, what I find interesting about your story is that you had a background in art.
I do.
You previously wanted to be a curator, right?
I did.
So how did you make that leap from curator to entrepreneur extraordinaire?
Right. So back to South Africa, I was actually there studying at the University of Cape Town in kind of this exchange program, visiting and learning about some of their local artists. So that's kind of where I was really getting serious about this whole art thing. And after I came back from there, I actually had an opportunity to do a fellowship at the Smithsonian. So I was really like, okay, I can do this. And then I decided to come back to Atlanta, go to grad school, and really just think about the business side of the arts. And that's why I started pursuing graduate level studies. And I got my first opportunity at the Museum of Design Atlanta, which is here in Atlanta, right across from the High Museum. And that was like my first real or full-time role in the arts. I loved it, but it was a small museum, a startup for all intents and purposes. So, I was over the memberships, over the front desk, when, the bathrooms need to be clean, all those, I was doing all of it because it was just a small organization at the time. But that's where I got my first taste into fundraising, which is really a big piece of my work at YE, and previously was a big piece of my work in YE, is spreading the message. So then I transitioned into kind of this youth development work, and that's how I found myself at Youth Entrepreneurs, is kind of bringing those fundraising skills over to YE. So it was a slow journey, and it kind of evolved. I never thought I would leave the arts, honestly, but then I really fell in love with this work. Because it's just so important to, our overall society. And I personally believe I would not have had the opportunities I've had in my life if I didn't have programs like YE when I was growing up. I really resonate with these students because I am one of these students. I come from very similar scenarios and situations that a lot of them have to deal with. So,
tell me more about that.
Okay.
I want to know how you are like the students that you work with.
A lot of the students that we serve in Youth Entrepreneurs face a lot of barriers and challenges that they have to overcome in life and period, right? I come from a small city. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I check all the boxes, single parent home, all of that stuff. So just a lot of the challenges that some of our students face, I had to face growing up as well. So that's what really, connects me to this work, because without opportunities like YE when I was growing up, I don't know if I would have even been somewhat successful, right? To have programs that give you opportunities, access, exposure to what's out there in the world, what's, outside of your community, I think is huge. So that's a big piece of it for me in terms of how,
Yeah. What was your YE?
So in my time, it was like the Inroads, it was the UNCF kind of programs, which we still have, that gave me opportunities to learn about other industries, to learn just about what my skills and passions were. And then I also had the opportunity to go to an HBCU. I went to Clark Atlanta University on a honor scholarship. So that was another big opportunity for me as well, is having that HBCU experience. Yeah.
Now, the students that you work with in YE, how do you find them?
Okay. So that's a good question. Sometimes they find us now that we've become a larger organization, a larger brand, especially in the communities where we've been for a while. Our name is starting to get out there. So the students are finding our YE educators and saying, hey, I want to take this class, let me in. But really what we do is we try to recruit educators that believe in what we believe in, or can at least find some alignment with the principles and the values that we have as an organization. And then we kind of equip them with the tools to help recruit students to join their Youth Entrepreneurs class. Sometimes it is a class in high school, 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on the school. But sometimes our educators have said, we want this so much that we do it after school. So it just depends on kind of what the educator, what the educator has the space for and kind of can make room for in their school. So part of it is self-selection, like, hey, I want to do this. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to learn more about this entrepreneurship thing. And then sometimes it's educators that know their students and say, I think you would thrive in this. So it's a combination, honestly, of that.
So it sounds like you're pretty flexible in your programming, that it's not like YE is this thing that you either go to or not. You go to the schools.
Yes.
And you can provide customized programming for them.
Yes.
After school, during school hours.
Right. So we have a core curriculum, and we actually now have launched a digital platform called yeacademy.org. And it is the kind of hub for all things YE. And now that's how a lot of educators are finding us. If they Google, entrepreneurship resources, the odds are YE is going to pop up. And that's usually their first introduction nowadays anyway to YE. And then they'll say, you know what, I want more of this. And they'll call YE headquarters and say, hey, how do I get this thing in my school formally? And that's usually, kind of how it starts now. But yeah, so that's kind of the trajectory it has taken now.
Yeah. Is there any moment you've had where you've observed something in a student's life, or a parent called you where you said, oh man, this is really working?
Oh gosh, I think we have tons of those stories, honestly, especially over almost 30 years of work. And I've only been with YE for about 4 years, but even in my time, I've seen so many of those success stories, as we call them, of students just finding out, what their passion is, then what their skills are, and what they can do with that. I think one story that's coming to mind is a YE alum. His name is Seth. He actually pitched his business in one of our business plan competitions years ago for an event planning business. He did not win, he did not place, but he wasn't discouraged. Fast forward probably 10 or 15 years later, now he actually owns a very successful event planning company, so much so YE has employed him to put on our largest fundraiser of the year, which is called BizBang.
Wow.
We have about 900 to 1,000 attendees, and a former youth entrepreneur student helps with the planning of that. And that's just one example of kind of how things have come full circle for a lot of our students. Seth, he didn't win the venture capital, but through his engagement with YE, through his process with YE, he found out what he was good at, and he didn't give up. He didn't let defeat, failure, any of that stop him. He continued to pursue, and now he's putting on events of all sizes throughout the country, and now he's even, a vendor for YE, which I think is amazing. So
that's so amazing, because I think when a lot of people hear about organizations like Youth Entrepreneurs and the support you offer, they tend to equate the value with, oh, maybe this can be the person that finances my business venture.
Yeah.
And And anything that's inconsistent with that feels like a failure. So I can easily imagine someone in that situation saying, man, I came here to win.
Right.
I didn't win. I'm not going to get any money. Well, that was a waste of time. But for you, it's the community.
For sure.
It's the guidance. And even just that experience of presenting your idea or trying to sell it to someone else that can help him get to that next level.
Absolutely. Community, I think relationships is another big piece of our work as well. How do we connect students with individuals in their communities or in the broader business community that can help support their ideas or even just give them advice, right? Even if they can't support them, let's say in a monetary way, but they can mentor them and provide them with feedback to take their idea, their thoughts, their passions to the next level. And that's really what life is about, right? Is that connectivity, that relationship building. So that's what we're really striving to do as well, is how can we incorporate more of that into our work? Because oftentimes that's where a lot of the magic happens. Yes, we do these competitions. Yes, we create these experiences outside of the classroom. But some of our students have had mentorships that have lasted years with some of the mentors they've had from their time in Youth Entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I think that speaks volumes, is that they've been able to form these bonds, these long-term bonds, because of their involvement with us. So
now you work with, I think the age range is what, like 13 through 17? Or?
Yeah, so predominantly we're in high schools.
Okay.
We do have some experimental programs in like middle school, and like I was saying, in camps and after-school programs. But our sweet spot, our core spot has kind of been in the high school level, so that 10th grade to 12th grade year.
And most of the people you work with, these are people who have a real felt need for support, right? Nobody would accuse the people you work with of just having it too easy, that's for sure, right?
So by and large, no.
Yeah. So for a lot of the mentors and teachers that are watching who work with people that belong in that demographic, and who may say, I have a hard time convincing people that they have higher possibilities.
Yeah.
That they can be more than where they came from.
Yeah.
What insight would you give to them on working with someone that may lack the self-belief to even say, I want your support. I think I could be better off with your mentorship.
Right. I mean, that's a big, I think, hurdle for this kind of work, right? It's helping young people, especially young people that by and large, right, are having challenges outside of kind of their school walls, right, that they have to carry with them and then still perform and be successful and do well, right? So I say for folks that, can contribute in that way is just to do it, right? A lot of these young people just need to know that there is a possibility and that there's a bigger world out there, or just to expand their frame of reference, to see outside of their school, outside of their community, to know that there are other opportunities out there, there's other possibilities for them. So that for folks that are like on the fence or hesitant about, what can I do? You just have to do it, honestly. Just show up, tell your story. And that is a step one in itself. If you can just do that, you never know how that resonates with a young person. And sometimes that's just the spark that they needed to continue this journey of entrepreneurship, of transformation, whatever you call it. It's just to know that someone else had a story similar to mine, or there's a piece of their story that I can resonate with. So for me, that's what I say. I always just do it. Just contribute in the way that you can. And sometimes that evolves. You become a mentor, a classroom speaker, a field trip host, whatever. But it usually starts with just telling your story, period. So.
Yeah, it's so easy to kind of have a problem and feel like I am the first person in the history of the universe
to ever deal with this.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you read or when you talk to people, you realize, oh my gosh, this has been worked out so many times.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do this too.
Right.
I want to talk with you for a minute about my theme for the month, which is anger.
Okay.
And it's about harnessing anger as a creative force. It's so easy to look out at the world, at people we don't like, things we don't like, and just feel outraged, feel so upset. Or maybe even just look inwardly at our own lives and things that we're trying to attain and we just can't get there and we feel angry. What advice would you offer to young people out there who feel really angry?
Yeah.
They feel angry about where they're at in life angry about their opportunities and their obstacles?
Yeah.
What would
That's
you say?
a really good question. And I think especially in this day and age of like social media and all of that, like it's really easy to fall into that space of anger or dissatisfaction with your own kind of situation or circumstance. So I would say, really stay in your lane. I think that's all you can do, and that's all you can control. You can't control necessarily those outside forces. So for young people that are dealing with that, I think you've got to buckle down, put your head down, and stay in your lane and worry about yourself and focus on yourself, because that's all you can control. So take that day by day. So is that tough? Absolutely. But if you can take that day by day and just move the needle each day, working towards just what makes you better, how you can improve yourself, how you can exercise gratitude. I think that's another thing that we have lost in this kind of society of kind of instant gratification that we have now. It's just gratitude. What happens or is happening in your life that you can show gratitude for today? Because 9 times out of 10, there's probably somebody else that doesn't even have that or hasn't had that experience, and you have. So can you just be grateful in that moment for that? Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, so I think gratitude is big piece of that. It's just, I think every day you should exercise gratitude and be thankful, so.
Yeah, the thing I try to share with people is that gratitude isn't just sort of like this do-gooder concept where you should be grateful because that's the right way to be. It's the more you practice gratitude, the more you start to recognize opportunity too.
For sure.
And the more things you have to be grateful about over time as a result of that. Yeah.
And I think to your point, a lot of times we get lost in kind of the hustle and bustle of, what we don't have or what somebody else has or whatever. But just to take the moment, just stop. Stop and take a look back of just your day, and be grateful for that. I woke up this morning, start small, right?
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go to school. I had an opportunity to be in YE, whatever, right? And just own that moment and that feeling. And I think it'll, translate broader than that over time. But I think you just got to start somewhere, if that makes sense.
I love all the things you teach. What do the young people you work with teach you?
Oh, gosh. That's a really good question. They teach me a lot about technology. I'm kind of technology challenged. Funny story. So this past summer, we had a huge summit in Detroit. We brought together about 300 students in Detroit for this kind of week filled of intense kind of seminars, field trips. Like we took them out into the community to meet budding entrepreneurs in the city of Detroit, as that city is going through a huge kind of renaissance and resurgence. And we just felt like that was a good place for our students to kind of see the power of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But the students developed like this secret Instagram about their experiences. And it became like this phantom thing. But to your point of what they've taught me to just really enjoy the moment. That Instagram was just full of kind of all the funny kind of instances that happened throughout their week with us. And when I look back at it, I had to laugh myself with some of the things that we experienced as a large group. But I think just living in the moment is a big piece of what I've learned, and not to be fearful. I think we try to teach that to them, but oftentimes they teach that to us. And we're kind of up against a huge kind of goal and mission, right? To help young people think differently about themselves, to change their mindset, right? That's tough work. But I've learned over the couple years that I've been with YE that I can't approach my work with fear. That's not, a good example, but I'm then not practicing what we preach. So I try to really take onus of that as well. A lot of our students have taught me that it's just go for it. So
yeah, you said I can't approach my work with fear. I agree with that sentiment, but do you ever feel it? You ever feel fear?
Oh, for sure. I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the process is owning that and knowing that, but do not let that defeat you and do not let it stop you. I think a lot of us get caught up in that. And, you know, once we've had that feeling because it's uncomfortable, then we like hit the brakes.
Yeah.
But the real magic happens where you can have that feeling, honestly, own it, but move through it and move past it. I think that's important.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's a matter of not buying into the lie that your fears are feeding you, right? Because the fear is, oh my gosh, if you take that creative risk,
Right.
oh my gosh, if you speak up and use your voice, the world is gonna hate you forever and you will be permanently sealed as a loser. And the truth is,
Quite the opposite.
There's greatness for you
Right.
on the other side of that fear.
Oh,
Yeah.
quite the opposite, I have found. YE has had several iterations in terms of how we've approached this work, how we've tried to create programs or experiences. And, you know, a lot of organizations, they kind of, I don't want to say they don't innovate, but they kind of become known for certain things and then they just kind of ride that plane. And that's fine. You know, if it's effective and it gets the job done, I can see that. But one thing I love about youth entrepreneurs is that we're constantly trying to innovate and improve on what we do and what programs we provide students. And sometimes that comes with a huge level of fear. When they said we're going to bring 300 students to Detroit and 300 educators, because we also had an educator experience going on simultaneously, talk about fear. We're responsible for 600 folks' lives this week. Yeah. But why not? You know what I mean? And we did it. And when I tell you it was a phenomenal experience for students, for educators, for us as YE staff, to have those types of engagements with our educators and students in a city like Detroit, it was phenomenal. But the work getting up to there was a shaking in my boots a little bit. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
One of the things I love about you and YE is that when it comes to these principles of entrepreneurship, you talk about, you back it up with results.
Absolutely.
And when we talked about you coming on and joining the show, we discussed having a couple of graduates join as well to kind of hear their story about how YE impacted them. And so we have Anton and Zaria that are going to be speaking with me here very soon. What do you have to say about your experience with them?
Phenomenal students. Yeah. I think they're really a cream of the crop example of kind of what YE students can evolve into and become. Zaria was actually one of our insiders at this summit that I spoke about earlier. And this is kind of an opportunity for YE alum to really display their leadership, what all they've learned in the class, and then give back to the students that are now current students, right? So teaching that along the way and giving them an opportunity to now really display what they've learned within YE in a leadership capacity, right? To be an example for the next set of YEers coming behind them. So I just think that's also another phenomenal piece of our work as well, is that we're always trying to think of ways to continuously engage young people throughout their journey with us. So yes, once you take the YE class, that's great, but it doesn't end there. You know what I mean? For us, we're going to continue to support you, to continue to be a resource for you. And I think that's one of the things that makes YE special is that, and I think Zaria even said it herself. She said, I feel like we have a family with YE. Yeah. And that means a lot to me for the work that we do, is knowing that our students know and feel that we're here for them, and if we can support them in their journey, that we will.
If you want to learn how to face the baboon and survive,
there you have it.
Take a look at Youth Entrepreneurs.
There we go.
Anna, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Like I said, YE is doing phenomenal things, and we appreciate you for giving us a platform to share that with your viewers.
My pleasure. Thanks for watching this week's episode with Anna Rector. If you'd like to know more about youth entrepreneurs, check them out at getye.org. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram.com/feeonline. Be sure to check out the website, fee.org/rev1, Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/feeonline and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. And be sure to leave a review. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.